You are listening to the 5 a.m. podcast, and today is your day. Welcome to the 5 a.m. podcast, where we bring you insightful conversations with thought leaders and influencers who are making headway and some waves in their callings and industries. Today, I am happy to welcome Nelson Paredes-Parks, a true maverick in the entertainment industry with over 30 years' experience leading the ESI network. Nelson has mastered the delicate art of guiding young talent while prioritizing their well-being in an often challenging industry. Nelson is not just a talent manager, he's a serial entrepreneur whose ventures span from Talent Plan and Break for Breakfast to his latest initiatives, helpandanswers.com, supporting entrepreneurs in scaling their businesses. And he also has the AIexperts.com, bridging the gap between AI and entertainment professionals. Now, as someone with a passion for mentorship and a commitment to giving back through nonprofits like Kids Eyes, Nelson continues to shape the entertainment landscape while empowering the next generation of talent and entrepreneurs. Now, before we roll that intro, a warm welcome to you, the listener and watcher. Thanks for being here. Please consider sharing this with 3 of your friends. I know many are going to enjoy this conversation. And a big thanks to those who have given a 5-star review on your favorite podcast player. And of course, those who have ventured over to buymeacoffee.com/5am podcast. We do appreciate all levels of support. And now let's roll that intro. Nelson, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thanks for joining me on the 5am podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. Glad to be here.
Yes. Now, let's jump right into it. Your journey from talent management to AI innovation represents exactly the kind of forward-thinking approach I know that our listeners value. Can you talk a little bit about, is this the melding of mind and machine?
Well, I think the world has definitely changed. I mean, in the last couple of years, the industry, all industries, I think, are really under the microscope. And it's about how to innovate. It's about like what you're going to do something different. And so for me, I have always been of the mindset of leveling things up. And it's really about the questions you ask yourself in your life. That's what my brand helpandanswers.com, the whole concept was you have the life, the business and brand that you have dependent on the questions that you ask yourself or the questions you don't ask yourself in your life. So I am always helping entrepreneurs and business owners ask deeper, better, wiser questions so that you can really level up whatever it is that you're up to in your life.
Right. And looking at your entrepreneurial journey, you've launched several distinct ventures. What's your process maybe for identifying opportunities that align with those changes and market needs and then personal strength?
I think it's just about being in touch or in tune with whatever you're up to in your life. So for me, it's more a process of something inspires me and I'm like, oh, or I have a problem. I have a problem here. So what do I do to solve that problem? So I'm always looking at interesting ways to create new solutions to things. Years ago when I started this thing called Break for Breakfast, that was just the time to just get together with friends. And, it started as a brunch that was like once a week.
Yeah.
Then it was 5 people, then 10 people, then 20 people, then 50 people, then 100 people. And then it just kind of grew into this whole community of like, people connecting and wanting to have, take a break. It was called Break for Breakfast. So it was a breakfast time where we took time to have brunch and connect with friends.
Right. And that's so important too, to have that team around you and to make those connections. Maybe for somebody who's younger, because from our demographics, we do have a lot of people in their mid to late 20s and early 30s. And maybe they need some tips on networking, or they have to actually get out there and break the ice. Can you think back maybe to your earlier years or some of your clients who struggled with, how do I network?
Yeah, I think networking, I struggled with how to network when I was younger, and I really just repeatedly did it over and over and over again. And after a while, I became really good at it. And so, but I don't see networking, as a dirty word, which some people sometimes have that experience or feeling with. I see it as just relationship building. It's like, how do you build any relationships? With conversation, with connection, with trying to find out a little bit more about whoever the human being is. So now I just make it a game. Like sometimes I'll even go to an event and I'll go with 2 or 3 friends of mine. And we'll just, before we walk into the event, we'll create a game and say, okay, how many people do we want to connect with tonight with? And let's say the number is 50. So we'll say, okay, let's divide that. Like each one of us is going to take 15, 15, and I'll take the rest or something like that. And so we'll go into a room and, have deep conversations with, I'll be strategic. I'll say, okay, the party, let's say, is a 3-hour party. How much time am I going to spend with each person, as I'm getting to know them? And I'll say, okay, let's say it's 10 minutes each. So, I do the math. So it's just a math equation. Then I just tell myself, okay, well, if the party is from 8 till 11, then I have to make sure that every 10 minutes I move on to someone
Right.
else to try to connect.
I think you're
I'll
right.
build a little bit of a conversation with them, and then I'll say, hey, I'd love to get your number, and vice versa. And then I actually give them my phone, have them put their number in my phone. And then after I've had that conversation, I step away and I'll take some notes as to what I learned about that human being. I'll
Smart.
say, you know what, I met them, at such and such an event. In my phone, what I'll do is I'll put down, I met them at such and such an event. It was at this location. And then, what I found out about the person was where they live, that they're married, that they got a kid, that they're, like they like to do this, this, and this. And I'll keep all that in my notes section. So then in the future, when I'm looking through my phone list, I'll say, okay, let's say I went to the Emmys party. So I'll write down, went to an Emmys party. And anytime I want to search those people on my phone, when I type in the word Emmys, those 15 people that I met at
Nice.
that party will come up that way. So I have it honestly down to a system. And then I'll add all those contacts onto an Excel spreadsheet and then just start working my list, calling, connecting, setting up coffees, setting up lunches. And so for me, it's just a lifestyle at this point.
Right. Oh, that's great. And it does, we can never despise those days of small beginnings. And it certainly, from looking at your site, helpandanswers.com, it's very clear that your mandate is to support entrepreneurs in scaling their businesses. And network is just one component of that. But what do you see as the most critical mistake that maybe prevents promising startups from reaching their potential?
They haven't put together a wise enough plan, and they're not clear on where their time should go. So one of the things I really work very diligently with when I'm working with anyone that I'm working with or business coaching is I want to understand what you're doing with your time. Because if you're putting your time in the right areas, you can thrive and have a lot of great success. And if you're putting your time in all the wrong activities, you might be working very hard, but really not getting to the objective or goal that you want to get accomplished. So for me, I go through, an entire structure where I go through, a person's life and business. And I want to look at your time and your money and your boundaries and your resources and all your relationships. And I come up with a master game plan for your business and or life so that you start attaining the things that you say you want to attain.
Nice. Now, I got to circle back to the break for breakfast because I had written down in my notes that it's actually ended up being one of Hollywood's largest networking groups.
Well, I don't know about that. I think there have been many.
Okay.
But it was a fun event, that I did for, like, 2 years. I had a whole
Okay.
board of directors on it, and it was a great, kinda group that, people connected with it just that was just honestly, it came because I wanted a break with my friends, and then since nearly everything I turn into turns into some sort of business at some point, that's what ended up happening from it, but I did it for about 2 years, and then it got a little exhausting, and I said, "Now I need a different sort of break,"
Right.
without people where I go do some relaxing sort of thing. So I love to travel. I have an Airbnb in Mexico that's a beautiful hacienda in the mountains. The place is called Casa Zacafe. So it's not your typical like Cabo sort of
Right.
trip. When you think Mexico, people think
Nice.
Cabo or Puerto
Yes.
Vallarta or something
Yeah.
like that. It's like a lovely getaway in the middle of the mountains, where there's a chicken coop where in the morning you go get your eggs and the family there cooks breakfast for you.
Well, that's
So I
great.
try to balance my life, and that has definitely been a place where I'll go have some downtime, and I go at least twice a year with my family, and it's a great way to detox from the world.
Well, yeah. And we all need that. I know in one of the other recordings for 5am podcast that I just did a couple weeks ago, the main message of that was making sure that, and you said this too about time and budgeting time and making sure that the off time is as much priority as the on time
Hmm.
so that we can bring our A game. And we got to bring that A game, I guess, to the rest time too, so that we can actually refire
Yeah,
during those times.
because most people just, I mean, when I ask people like how many hours do they have in a week, they don't even know. And it's 168. You have 168 hours a week. And so what I did years ago is I wore a stopwatch around my neck and I timed every task in my life, everything from, eating breakfast to walking a block to sending out an email, like how long does every task take to do? And I wanted to understand because again, everyone has different amounts of time that it takes them to do different things. But
Yes.
to be effective with my time, I needed to time myself, and I did it for 2 years and learned what sort of time I require to do something effectively and efficiently. And so that's a good way to start getting really good with your time is just to time yourself. So I recommend that everyone out there like do that experiment for a month or two and master that because time, money you can make more of. Money will come and go, but time we will never get more of. We have each determined amount of set days and minutes in our lifetime. And so I like to make sure that I'm guarding my time as much as your income or money, and it's a more valuable asset than your money.
Yeah, it's so valuable. One of the things that we talk about here at 5 a.m. podcast, it's in the name morning routines, and that contributing to the tone of the day and the week. And just chatting with a colleague who was kind of recentering himself a little bit at the start of the week. Have you seen in those startup people that you work with, or even some of the other celebrities or other people, that morning routine? Have you seen where it really counts and propels them ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have like what's called a morning power hour, and in my morning power hour, there's certain routines that I have with myself, and I find that the people that do that sort of thing, it really makes a difference. Like when I first wake up, the first thing that I do is I start like I do these daily mantras or daily statements that I
Yeah,
say to myself,
yeah,
and the first thing I'm doing is I'm saying a statement I am getting connected to. So, for example, I'm getting connected to my morning. I'm getting connected to the day. I'm getting connected to my family. I'm getting connected to whatever it is I'm wanting to get connected to. I speak that out first at the top of the day. And then I will start going through statements that are I am statements. So I am this, I am strong, I am. So I'll say statements again that are just reinforcing certain beliefs that I want to make sure. And 90% of them I believe. And some of them I might not believe, but I need to start saying them to start believing those things about myself.
that's right.
So it's a good habit that I do in the morning. And then I'll go into my reading time where I'm making sure that I'm learning something new. I'm reading something that inspires me. For me personally, I read my Bible. That helps me just ground my day.
Yeah,
And then from there, I want to make sure I'm doing some sort of movement, and some moving. So walking or some sort of exercise. And then in the last 15 minutes, I then do my routine of like any routines that I have to have at home before I can leave the house. So I have like an hour kind of structure, and that's my morning routine that I kind of do diligently. And I'll tell you, the days that I do my routine, my day goes different than the days that I don't. So I really work very hard and diligently on keeping that morning power hour sort of
yeah,
thing in my structure,
right.
as it really makes an impact and difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And being able to have the plan and work the plan. And I know the mornings where well, because I work from home, I can get up and go to my office straight from the bedroom, skip everything else I know that I'm supposed to be doing.
Uh-huh.
Because I think maybe other people feel this way too. If I just go and start on that now, I'm going to get so much more done. And boy, I tell you what, just like you're saying, when I reject my plan for the morning
Uh-huh.
and think that I'm just gonna like jump all in 100% into my task, boy oh boy, does everything just seems to go haywire.
Yeah, and I try to remove technology the first hour. At all costs. I try to not like a lot of times. I used to go to my phone immediately. I'd get my phone. I'm like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
And I found that that's just a really awful habit.
Yeah.
So I try not to include my phone in my morning power hour unless there's some specific reason where I need to like if you're going to let's say read something on your iPad or something like
Right.
that might be different.
Yeah.
But I try to not get hooked by other distractions that can change like my mindset the first hour. So I think
Yes.
that that's critical. And the days that I do this, I have a lot more effective days. And I each day also try to ask myself a couple questions. as to how could I be more effective today, or how can I become 1% better with whatever task I'm up to that day. So
That's good.
a lot of times I'll ask myself a one statement question for my day to make sure that I'm doing everything a little bit wiser,
Right.
stronger, more effective.
Yeah. So this is the point where I got to ask our listeners about alert them to the comment section, if you will, and say, ladies and gentlemen, we all have a morning, we all have an evening. Tell us where you are on that spectrum.
Uh-huh.
And certainly, at least if nothing else, let us know you exist. And maybe you're not a morning person, but let me tell you, you could become a morning person. And so I got to ask you, Nelson, that you've worked with probably countless talented individuals in a variety of different streams or industries. What do you think, as far as character traits that consistent? Is there something that consistently separates people who are achieving a sustainable success from those who maybe struggle to get traction, despite maybe having equal amounts of talent?
I think it's in their I mean, honestly, I think it's consistency, and I think it's that they ask better questions, and that's really what I try to help people with, because I think that you don't get to the kind of results that you wanna have if you keep asking the same questions over and over again. That's like doing something the same way every day expecting a different result. So you really need to be asking a deeper, a wiser, or more introspectful question on a daily basis. So I find that the people that do that, and the people that have mentors, I think that people that have mentors, they stay more accountable, they get resources done in a different way, they work much smarter. So I think having a team of experts and working with a variety of individuals that have different perspectives. So again, I have not been able to get to where I've gotten in my life without having really great, awesome people around me. So I think that that's a key. The relationships are so critical. And it's important to have people around you that believe in you, that support you, have you relook at how you do things, and don't just let you get away with bad habits or negative patterns. It's people that challenge you and inspire you to like look at life, a little bit more like the glass half full.
Yes. Yeah, and when we think in terms of those people that can be mentors for us and that they're actually accountability partners, as well as that kind of older, wiser sage that
Hmm.
can speak into us. And if we have a good relationship, they can say, okay, I see that, you're starting to get a little late on our meetings and you're not totally present when we're meeting together. I mean, those are the kind of mentors that you really want, who
Yep.
are going to say, here, pal, let's be a little more working on these deficiencies that you have.
Yeah, and I have people that donate their time to me and do that sort of thing, and I have people that I pay to just, give me wisdom. So I think along the way, it's important to have a combination of both.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you about the AIexperts.com. And uh, do you feel that you're like at the intersection of entertainment meets artificial intelligence?
Well, that's an initiative that I just was just more like an inquiry that I started
Okay.
trying to understand AI and entertainment, and technology is not something that I've been a master at in any way, shape, or form. But I realized that AI was definitely something that like was going to continue to grow. And at the beginning of this, when people were first starting about ChatGPT, I immediately like hopped on the bandwagon and started trying to learn a lot more about it. I set up a Zoom with about 100 people and had a bunch of AI experts on there that just taught us all about AI. And so my objective was really through osmosis to like work with a bunch
Yeah,
of people in the AI space that might teach me some tools. And so, the AI experts is just a place where I'm starting to collect information and put information on this site as I learn it as well myself, to just give back to the entertainment community. So I'm just trying to find a way to like understand AI myself, as well as, find out what other tools or methodologies others could be
yeah,
using AI for. And I don't think that AI is necessarily going to replace us all, but I do think that it's going to, for the people that like can figure out how to integrate AI into their current business model, I think those are the leaders that are going to come up ahead because they're willing to figure out how to incorporate AI into their worlds.
that's right. And it's that idea of figuring out how we can work with it, but also have it serve our needs
Yep.
instead of us become its servant.
Exactly.
As
Yeah.
and of course we're programmed by all the wonderful stories that have come to us
Yeah.
on the silver screen, and it's fascinating to see where we are right now. Of course, who can not talk about AI and not think about Terminator
All right.
or something like that? But ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't have to be a cautionary tale. We can figure out ways of
Yep.
survival and success. I wanted to ask you too about the nonprofit that I believe you started, right? Kids Eyes.
Yeah, with a couple other people. I mean, that this was honestly years ago.
Okay,
But, yeah, I've always just been involved in the kids youth community. Now I've helped put together actually another board, here in Hollywood, helping, parents and kids understand and navigate, the Hollywood system a little bit.
gotcha.
But, I'm always, finding ways to connect with, entertainment youth people. I'm probably one of the experts here in Hollywood with youth and entertainment, and I have a bunch of ebooks that are coming out this year, with another brand called Kids on TV.
Oh, that's
So it's
fun.
kidsontv.com. And so I have about 18 different ebooks that I'm in the middle of, completing here soon that will roll out.
Right.
And it's all teaching parents how to get their kid into the business effectively, in a balanced manner, and without spending tens of thousands of dollars to do so.
Yeah. And one of the places that I often frequented when I was down in the Los Angeles area for meetings was the Magic Castle.
Hmm.
And of course, on Saturday mornings, no one will sleep any better knowing this, but they would have the young people come in, children, teenagers, whoever, and get to hang out with some of the magicians in the comics, and that was always great. But one other memory I have, I had some meetings. My wife was with me, and uh, we were on our way. I was thinking of Harry's. There's a diner. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But we stopped at a Starbucks because we had time and we were gonna get together with some people. And the Starbucks that we stopped at, because we were going over to Hollywood, ended up going past Nickelodeon, and so there was a whole lot of moms and parents and children, I should say, in the Starbucks waiting to go across the street to Nickelodeon for something. And I got to ask you about fostering, or for parents that are considering helping their children pursue an acting gig, not just a gig, but an actual career and life. What do you think that very first step is that you would recommend? And maybe is there a realistic timetable so parents can manage expectations?
Well, I think you want to read a bunch of books on how to get into the business. And again, the organization I was talking about before is called Minor Performers Alliance. And it's an organization that helps, parents to understand the business a little bit more. But there's a lot of organizations out there that are really helping youth in entertainment. Minor Performers Alliance is probably one of the strongest. And there's another woman in town that really helps kids and parents named Jennifer Boyce. She used to be a long-term agent
Okay,
in town, and now she also helps parents and kids really impact and make a difference. So she is a great resource as well. And it's about getting educated. It's about learning the business. It's, if you want to get an agent or manager, research, I mean, I have had my entertainment company for now 31 years, managing a lot of kids in Hollywood. So I know what it takes to be that great parent,
great.
and also what it takes for a kid to be a kind of a strong working actor. So, you can check out that business called the ESI Network. And the ESI Network both reps kids and adults. It used to be just kids, and over the years we've really grown, and now it's probably 70% adults and 30% kids. But kids is kind of my expertise. I coached thousands of kids over the years when I used to be an acting coach years ago. But you just want to make sure you're doing this for the right reasons. There's a lot of parents that get their kid into the business and they want just their kid to be famous. Those are not the kind of parents that I choose to work with. I want to make sure the parents are doing this for the right reasons. And you want to treat the entertainment business like this is just like a fun activity, like a dance class or soccer or anything else. So the parents that do this for the right reasons and help support their kids just have fun in this process, generally, those are the kids that do well in the business as well. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think I've had a lot of background in broadcasting sports and
Hmm.
different levels and different age groups, and you certainly see the ones that are going to make it and the ones that aren't. Yeah, it's that whole mindset issue is a huge component of it. I was going to ask you too. I think this is kind of similar. I wanted to ask about like how I was thinking of the book E-Myth Revisited, how it talks about building structures for businesses, but also for life. And this, as you were talking about reading books, parents wanting to put their children into acting and through the system, let's say, of then realizing that the parents actually not only they have to be doing it for the right reasons, but they actually need to have some systems and some business structure in place, I should say. And that's no different for these startups. I think there's
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of things that relate from the individual to startups. So thinking of those business systems and structures, do you have a particular philosophy on balancing that scalability, whether it's an actor or a desire to be in film or some sort of tech company? So balancing that scalability with maintaining that human element of connecting with those around us.
Clear on the question. What's the actual question?
Sure. So the actual question is being cognizant of needing to actually have a system in place
Huh?
so that you can still scale, but you don't lose that human connection and that human element of the priorities for your child wanting to be an actor or people with a, let's say, a tech startup that aren't considering the human element and needs on time and scheduling, and just knowing that they have to, in their desire to scale or to become famous or to sell a lot of products, they still have to have a human anchor to the process.
Well, I think all of that comes down to building the plan, and so one of the things that I do with whether you're an actor or whether you're a business owner or entrepreneur is building a wise game plan from the beginning. Uh, a lot of actors that I work with turn in 18-page business plans to me before we even start repping them. Um, but again, it can just be a one pager that has your main bullet points of what you're trying to get accomplished in one place. You want a roadmap. So I like to make sure that we do a mind map with anyone that we work with so that there's a real clear vision of what it is we're trying to do. What are all the critical steps and teams and time and money and resources that you're going to need for whatever it is that you're up to. And it's just finding a way to balance all that out in your business and your life. So I think, the statement that you made at the top of the Zoom, which was work your plan and plan your work and work your plan. And I think it's about doing that repeatedly over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we're wrapping up here, Nelson, we've talked about a few different websites and ways to get in touch with you, but can you just give us the main way of how you like to connect with people initially?
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, if anyone on the business side wants to connect, you can connect with me through my website, helpandanswers.com. And if you personally want to reach out, go to my Instagram, which is at Nelson Paredes-Parks, which is again right on the screen there, I think. And that's generally the best way, or you can look me up on LinkedIn as well. So those are probably the best ways to kind of reach out to start with.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. What a great conversation. It's always fun to meet new people on 5 a.m. podcast and share their stories with you. So, Nelson, a sincere thanks for joining me today for 5 a.m.
You got it. Michael, I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
Have you read the book, The 5 a.m. Club?
I have not.
So that might be a good one,
Okay.
considering that you're called the 5 a.m. podcast. It's on my to-do list also. So maybe we'll read it together because that's definitely a book that seems to impact a lot of, 5 a.m. They say that people that wake up at 5 a.m. and start the day, at 5 a.m.
Yes.
are the ones that are really movers and shakers in the
Uh,
world. So
Awesome.
I have still not mastered always getting up at 5.
Yeah.
6 is still about where I
Yeah.
go. But I'm trying to make it to the 5 a.m. club. So
That's good.
that's kind of one of the things I'm working on.
Yeah. From our lips to God's ears.
Yep.
That's good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michael. This was fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I just want to thank our listeners and viewers too. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to seize your day, ladies and gentlemen. We are so thankful that you've been here. And don't forget to enjoy those sunrises and sunsets. I'm Michael Klassen.